a hotbed for international terrorist groups, lawless provinces where vigilante justice rules, international drug syndicates working with impunity, a weak political setup, and one of the largest nuclear weapons stockpiles in the world. Is Pakistan the most dangerous nation in the world? Who is in control of its nuclear weapons? Is the world a safer place under the current regime? Let us take a look. Pakistan is one of 9 nuclear-armed nations in the world. It is estimated that Pakistan has between 100 and 120 nuclear warheads, which can be delivered by airborne and ground-based missiles. According to a briefing by the US-based Arms Control Association in March of 2022, Pakistan is developing new delivery technologies and increasing its nuclear arsenal faster than any other country. Pakistan's nuclear use policy is unlike its nuclear-armed neighbors, India and China. Pakistan has not committed to a no first use policy. India and China have both made unambiguous pledges of never being the first country to resort to using nuclear weapons. Pakistan, on the other hand, is one of the few nations in the world who have even publicly stated that they would use any weapon in their arsenal to repulse any attack on them. This asymmetric nuclear posture by Pakistan is meant to keep the world anxious about Pakistan's intentions, and with destabilising forces swelling in its country, the safety of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal remains a global fear. US President Joe Biden described Pakistan as one of the most dangerous nations in the world which holds nuclear weapons without any cohesion. President Biden's comments irked Islamabad, and it summoned the US ambassador to Pakistan over President Biden's nuclear remarks. Pakistan's foreign minister, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, said he was surprised by the comments.
As far as the question of the safety and security of Pakistan's nuclear assets are concerned, we meet each and every international standard in accordance with the IAEA as far as the safety and security of our nuclear assets.
Why is the West so concerned about the safety of nuclear arsenals in Pakistan? Are these concerns valid? As per Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, following the 9/11 attacks by Al-Qaeda on New York and Washington, D.C., Islamabad began to fear that the U.S. might feel compelled to neutralize the Pakistani nuclear arsenal as a precautionary move, rather than have it fall into the hands of radical Islamic terrorists that operate freely in the country. These concerns led Pakistan to consider raising the size of its nuclear arsenal and to increase the number of weapons storage facilities. The world has valid concerns about the security of nuclear arsenals in light of the Taliban reclaiming power in Afghanistan and expanding its influence in some areas of Pakistan.
Actually, when the US said that the Pakistani, nuclear program is not safe, it's a very relevant statement because, as we know, that Pakistan was involved and it accepted and confessed that back in 2004 that it was involved in the black market of the nuclear weapons, and it was selling nuclear secrets.
The US-based academic institution, the Combating Terrorism Center, believes that most of Pakistan's nuclear weapons facilities are located in the north and west of the country, and in the region around Islamabad and Rawalpindi. The fact that the majority of Pakistan's nuclear facilities are near or perhaps within Taliban and Al-Qaeda controlled regions is the main cause for concern. Despite these valid concerns, the United States, in an apparent rollback of President Biden's recent statement, due to political pressure, had to issue a statement that they were confident that Pakistan could secure its nukes. The truth, however, is closer to what President Biden had earlier said. There have also been a number of attacks on nuclear weapon sites. These have included an attack on the nuclear missile storage facility at Sargodha on November 1, 2007, an attack on Pakistan's nuclear airbase at Kamra by a suicide bomber on December 1, 2007, and perhaps one of the deadliest attacks, the August 21, 2008 attack, when Pakistani Taliban suicide bombers blew up several entry points to one of the armament complexes at the Wah cantonment, considered to be one of Pakistan's main nuclear weapons assembly sites. There are serious concerns about Pakistan's potential transfer of nuclear weapons, weapons components, and nuclear know-how to terrorist groups. Pakistan's economic and political instability and lack of transparency in their international dealings further complicate and increase the risk of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal to global safety. The world must continue to keep a vigilant eye on Pakistan and keep them accountable globally. In its 75 years of existence, one would expect Pakistan to step out of the shadows of partition, embrace its demographic dividend, and chart a course for economic prosperity. However, the opposite has happened. Pakistan is currently facing one of its worst economic crises in its history. Pakistan was recently forced to plead for Western assistance in order to help over 30 million suffering citizens who were rendered homeless by unprecedented flooding. Due to years of economic mismanagement, Pakistan has been hanging off of a cliff, on the verge of financial default for months, despite making bailout commitments to the Paris Club, which are a group of developed countries that help defaulting nations with their loans, and to the International Monetary Fund. The country's new finance minister, Ishaq Dar, speaking in Washington, D.C. recently, said that he will seek the rescheduling of some 27 billion USD worth of non-Paris Club debt, largely owed to China, but will not pursue haircuts as part of any restructuring. It is hard to believe the new Pakistani finance minister's remarks, especially as he is also an accused in corruption cases in his own country. And the anger against him is palpable, even amongst the Pakistani diaspora living abroad, as was evident when videos of Ishaq Dar being heckled in Washington, D.C.'s Dulles Airport went viral.
You are the just! The progress so far after the meetings with the World Bank, IMF, and the bilaterals and also a roundtable on floods in Pakistan, our losses, our needs have been very, very positive. They have been very forthcoming. Both the multilateral donors as well as the bilateral friends and partners.
At a time when global markets and geopolitics are racked with instability, Pakistan is facing a deflating economy and spiraling inflation. The country's international creditors are factoring in the potential of a default on a bond that is due in December, a little over 1 month from now, because the debt load alone is so heavy. For example, Moody's, the bond credit rating business, cut Pakistan's sovereign credit rating by 1 notch further into junk territory to Caa1 from B3, one of the weakest among sovereign nations. Moody's rating was followed by outlook downgrades in July by 2 other rating agencies, Fitch and S&P Global, both of whom flagged similar issues. Foreign exchange reserves at the State Bank of Pakistan stood at 7.9 billion USD. This amount would barely cover imports for 1 month in Pakistan.
Pakistan is already in a bad shamble, It is already financially and economically already disintegrated because the kind of burden which Pakistan has with the international community when it comes to the question of returning back the loans, that is a Herculean task for Pakistan as such.
Since the beginning of the year, the Pakistani rupee has lost 30% of its value. And as of October, the Pakistani rupee is at its lowest rate ever. The decline in currency is pushing up the cost of imports, borrowing, and debt servicing, and is in turn further exacerbating inflation, which is already at a multi-decade high of 27.3%. Another South Asian country, Sri Lanka, has defaulted on its debt, and the president and government were toppled in widespread protests caused by the economic crisis. Pakistan's leaders have not been able to improve the country's economic situation, and there are serious speculations that Pakistan may follow a similar fate to Sri Lanka.